When most of us hit a certain age, urination stops being a thing we find funny, but that doesn't mean urination can't still be fascinating, especially when you look beyond the pee coming out of human bodies to the rest of the animal kingdom. Because peeing does a lot more than get rid of waste. It can help lobsters find love, it can help dogs lie to each other, it can even help monkeys avoid getting sick. We've got 6 examples of weird animal urination habits for you today. So take a quick bathroom break if you need to, and we'll get started. Okay, I did say that peeing does a lot more than get rid of waste, but let's start there for a quick reminder. Your kidneys help keep you alive by performing a variety of to-dos, like flushing out toxins and balancing your blood chemistry. Producing urine, which you then excrete, is how they accomplish all those tasks. And this kind is more or less the same across a lot of different kinds of animals, including some that you might not think of, like fish. That's right, fish pee. Presumably, none of them ever get grossed out about constantly swimming in their own diluted urine stream. Some fish species have an opening that expels both liquid and solid waste. Others have a specialized pee hole, just like we do. But fish have another way to expel their waste. Specifically, they can flush excess salt and nitrogen out via their gills, which is a handy-dandy adaptation if ever there was one. And with that little demo out of the way, let's move on to an animal that uses its pee to say something. You know, without writing its name in the snow or whatever. Lots of animals use pheromones to attract and assess potential mates. These are chemicals that animals emit to send signals to other members of their species. And lobsters release their pheromones via, you guessed it, their pee. A lobster's bladder is located in its head, just underneath its brain, and it pees via pores at the base of its antennas. I know this might sound like an evolutionary disaster that life simply found a way around, but if you're a lobster, peeing out of your head is actually useful if you spend most of your time backed into your little lobster burrow tail first. It also gives you a quick way to communicate with other lobsters in the area around you. Special glands mix pheromones into the urine before it's released, and that urine stream can travel up to 7 feet through the water. A lobster can send a message via pee a Shaquille O'Neal length distance away. Male lobsters use these pee pheromones to intimidate other male lobsters and attract females, in which case the female then takes her turn. When she shows up, she pees in the male's face, using her own pheromones to tell him to cool it with the aggression and let her into his burrow so they can mate. She also sends signals to any other females in the area that this mate is spoken for, at least for now. The female will stick around for a few weeks, and then the pair will split up and move on to new mates. That's right, apologies to fans of the sitcom Friends, but lobsters do not mate for life. But instead of leaving you with that bummer of a correction, how about something more hopeful? Humans have found a use for lobster urine too, just not for romance. Scientists in Florida have found that lobster pee repels coral-eating snails, helping protect sensitive coral reefs from damage. So the ocean is full of weird urination habits, but so are rivers. Between 2014 and 2018, a group of scientists observed male Amazon river dolphins sending streams of pee arcing into the air 36 times. During these, quote, aerial urination events, the males would turn themselves upside down, stick their penises out of the water, and let loose. But why? Why not just pee in the water, since it's going to end up there anyway? The scientists who witnessed this behavior noted that not long after a given event, another male dolphin usually approached and stuck his snout into the stream of urine. Marine mammals generally don't have much of a sense of smell, but the researchers inferred maybe river dolphins have sensory receptors on their snouts that let them detect pheromones and other chemicals in each other's urine. And since the river dolphins have bristles on their snouts that we mostly think are for sensing movement and vibrations in the water, the researchers also proposed that maybe these bristles could be involved in picking up chemical signals as well. In other words, these aerial pee streams could be a form of chemical communication that males use to assert their dominance over each other, kind of like with the lobsters. However, another expert on mammal senses chimed in with some skepticism. In his response, published in the same journal a few months later, he says there's no anatomical evidence that the dolphin's snout bristles can sense chemicals or smells. In fact, there's no mammal that we know of that has sensory bristles that work that way. Instead, the scientist thinks the dolphins could be playing. Or they could just like sticking their penises out of the water while swimming on their backs, and the whole peeing part could be a coincidence. When you gotta go, you gotta go, even if you're gonna confuse some hairless apes whose brains love finding patterns in data that aren't really there. Now, we do know that members of another dolphin species, the bottlenose dolphin, can recognize each other from urine samples. So river dolphin pee communication isn't completely out of left field, but the jury's still out on this one. All that research will need funding, and so do we. So here's an ad. This SciShow video is supported by ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors and click to instantly book an appointment. With over 150,000 providers across more than 200 specialties in all 50 US states, you can book an appointment within 24 to 72 hours. We've used ZocDoc, so we know it works. Someone on the SciShow team, I'm not naming names, has been dealing with some GI issues that are starting to really concern them. But they've been so nervous about the whole thing that they felt too overwhelmed to even get started with a general care visit. Using ZocDoc, they were able to overcome that first barrier to healthcare that had them dwelling on this concern for far too long. In one afternoon, they found a doctor close to their home and in network. Plus, that doctor had experience with the kinds of GI issues they were visiting about. The first visit happened pretty soon after booking, thanks to ZocDoc's calendar feature that lets you instantly book an appointment for that doctor's available time slots. And then they got the referral to a specialist that they needed to figure out once and for all what was going on. You can learn from our coworkers' experience. You don't have to put off making that first appointment. It only extends the time you spend worrying about that thing that you know needs to be checked out. With a really short time commitment on ZocDoc, you can get the ball rolling today. Taking care of your health just got easier. Head to ZocDoc.com/SciShow to get started and check that appointment off your to-do list. Up next, monkeys. A lot of monkey species do this thing called urine washing, as in they appear to wash themselves with their own urine. And I'm not talking casually letting a little pee trickle down their legs. They actively pee on their hands and then rub it on themselves or sometimes each other. The obvious question is once again, why? Much like our river dolphin mystery, scientists don't know, but there are several hypotheses. It could be another example of animals sending signals to each other via chemicals and scents in their pee, but it could also have nothing to do with communication. Monkeys might pee on themselves just to cool themselves off. This is something other animals do, like birds. Okay, technically birds don't pee in the traditional sense. It comes out at the same time as their poop out their one-stop shop hole called a cloaca, or maybe urine washing helps monkeys spread parasite-fighting chemicals from plants or bugs over their skin. In addition to urine washing, a lot of monkeys do something called anointing, where they rub things like leaves, fruit, mud, and insects on themselves. Some monkeys like to combine this with urine washing, so some primatologists speculate that if anointing is a way of self-medicating against parasites, then urine could help them apply the antiparasitic compounds to all the right body parts. But it's also possible that urine washing could improve a monkey's grip. In a study of wild white-faced capuchins in Costa Rica, the monkeys did more urine washing in dry weather, especially when they were near fruit trees. The researchers proposed this could mean the monkeys were rubbing pee on their hands and feet to make them sticky so they could get a better grip on the dry tree branches. As you can see, different studies have backed up different possible explanations for urine washing in different monkey species, so it's possible it has multiple purposes. But whatever they are, I will stick to washing my hands with soap and water. We're not done with the urination habits of our primate cousins, because in chimpanzees, it seems that peeing might be contagious. You know, like the human yawn. In 2025, researchers studying a group of chimps at a wildlife sanctuary in Japan reported that when one chimp started to pee, others were likely to follow suit. Specifically, a second chimp was more likely to pee if it was physically closer to the initial urinator, and if it was lower in social rank. This isn't exactly like contagious yawning, though. Some studies have suggested humans are more likely to catch a yawn from someone we feel close to. But in this chimpanzee population, two chimps being buddies did not make it more likely that one would follow the other's lead when peeing. The researchers who documented this case of social urination hope their work will spur more research, because this is apparently the first time anyone has collected data on this phenomenon in any animal species. Or should I say any non-human animal species, because we've got plenty of anecdotal evidence that humans sometimes like to take bathroom breaks in groups, even if they're for completely different reasons than other primates. Sometimes we even leave each other messages on the walls of the bathroom bathroom stalls, which brings me to our final entry for this list show. Like many other animals, dogs use scent marking to leave messages for each other. They urinate on objects in their environment, and other dogs can smell what's left to learn about the urinator's size, social status, and so forth. But according to a paper published in 2018, dogs could use their pee to lie about who they are. See, one way dogs and other scent marking animals make themselves stand out is by elevating their scent marks. Peeing on elevated or vertical surfaces helps keep the smells from getting lost among other scents on the ground and places them closer to nose level, which is far more convenient. Across multiple species, males are more likely to elevate their scent marks than females, and data from mongooses and pandas shows that animals of both sexes spend more time sniffing around higher scent marks. Basically, they're interested in big competitive males that may be lurking around for different reasons. Now, researchers used to think that scent marks were what's called an honest signal, conveying accurate information about the urinator. But a 2012 paper found that small male mongooses were leaving higher scent marks than expected relative to their size. In other words, it seemed like they were pretending to be bigger than they really were. That brings us back to dogs. For that 2018 paper, researchers studied scent marking by adult male dogs at 2 animal shelters in New York State to figure out whether these dogs were using their pee to lie about their size. They found that bigger dogs typically left higher urine marks, meaning yes, other dogs can get information on the urinator's size from this, but they also found that small dogs were raising their legs higher to get their pee higher relative to their height than large dogs. But as much as they were trying to lie, as much as dogs are capable of lying anyway, they can't be completely dishonest. The chemicals in their urine contain messages as well, and those wouldn't change. The researchers think this particular kind of fibbing helps small dogs avoid conflict with other males rather than to attract females. Unfortunately, we have not found the dog equivalent of rounding up to 6 feet tall on your dating profile. However, this study did have a few limitations. For example, the team didn't control for the fact that sometimes dogs intentionally try to pee onto a mark left by a previous dog, or that really big dogs can't lift their legs too high or they risk losing their balance. But they definitely think those little dogs are up to something. And the next time you take your dog out to potty, be glad it just doesn't pee out of its face.